Now, the big story this morning, Massachusetts Senator Scott Brown has signaled his approval of the Senate reform bill, boosting its chances of passing this week. But Congress doesn't have much time to act on other important legislation before the next scheduled recess. Joining us now, Susan Ferrechio, Chief Congressional Correspondent at the Washington Examiner. Good morning to you. Nice to see you again. Let's start with all these big ticket items that constituents are waiting for their members to pass, and now we have another break. What's the perception here, first of all?
Well, I think a lot of people think Congress isn't getting a lot done. It's difficult to move legislation right now because things have become very partisan in Congress. Republicans and Democrats philosophically are really divided over things. So it's hard to get things passed. For instance, unemployment benefits expired in June for a lot of Americans who have gone through their state benefits. The federal benefits are now not being given out because of this. So that's something that's stalled. There's also another bill that would provide aid to states to keep teachers from being laid off and to keep firemen and police on the job. That's another bill that hasn't been able to pass because of sort of partisan atmosphere in Congress.
Right.
And now they've only got about 3 or 4 weeks to get anything else done before they leave again until almost mid-September. It's a campaign, it's an election year, so they all want to go back and campaign in their district. So for the public, it makes it look like, you know, they come into session, they fight for a while, then they leave, and, you know, what gets accomplished? So it certainly doesn't look good for the lawmakers.
And put this in a time frame for us. In the next 3 weeks, I mean, what can really get done? Can anything really get done?
Well, as you mentioned, Scott Brown said he's going to vote for this financial regulatory reform bill, and as well as Olympia Snowe of Maine and Susan Collins also of Maine. So those are 3 Republicans who will probably help push that bill over the finish line. So that's one thing they'll get done. Another important thing is the unemployment benefits. We'll probably see that happen, and they'll be retroactive for June. So folks will get their unemployment checks. And finally, I think one thing they may really try to tackle is energy and climate legislation. That's a really big thing on the Democratic wish list. They want to try to move something that will show that we're making an effort to, you know, use more renewable energy and to decrease dependence on foreign oil. The oil spill in the Gulf has pushed that into the forefront as well, and the idea of using energy sources other than oil. However, this is an issue that will be really tough for Congress to move because, again, of the partisan atmosphere. So that's the real interesting story to watch, to see if they can move an energy and climate change bill before they leave. They don't have a lot of time, so it's going to be really hard.
Are the Democrats completely at the mercy, Susan, and we could just be frank here, of some Republicans like saying, okay, we'll let this one go through? Is that what it's really come down to?
Partly, yes. And I think Republicans, you know, they're going to be very careful about not wanting to help Democrats succeed. That's true, because it helps them politically. On the other hand, Democrats are having problems within their own caucus, much smaller problems, but it's enough to really hinder their ability to pass things. For instance, the unemployment legislation and financial regulatory reform bill each had a Democrat who opposed it and kept it from passing. So that's part of the issue, too. And as for energy and climate change, there are several Democrats who would be really reluctant to vote for anything that puts a price on pollution or price on carbon emissions because they're afraid it may increase energy prices. So it's not just Republicans. Certainly Republicans represent the majority of the opposition, but Democrats also are opposed as well, just fewer of them. However, their majority is so slim for Democrats, they really can't afford to lose any in their own caucus.
The eyes are on Congress right now, and a lot of us that know people who don't have jobs, or that whole dynamic that's happening now, is the perception of the break, the 4th of July break, now that the coming up break, a lot of August. What's that perception doing for Congress as they head into these November elections? It
never looks good. And right before they leave, you know, there'll be Republicans saying, well, we left town without doing this, and, you know, just trying to make the Democrats look like they're, you know, not getting a lot of work done when we could stay in session and work. But for Democrats, it's so important for them to go back and campaign. There's so many seats that are in jeopardy for Democrats, you know, dozens in the House and many in the Senate as well. So they're really caught between that. And despite how bad it may look for them, they will run off and go campaigning anyway, because for them, that becomes the priority.
Right. That must happen. Okay. Susan Ferrechio is a political reporter with the Washington Examiner. We appreciate your insight.
My pleasure.
All righty.